Chemistry, Section 1-1. All right, here are the objectives for this section. First of all, be able to identify 5 traditional areas of study in chemistry, relate the ideas of pure chemistry and applied chemistry, and then identify reasons to study chemistry. Usually, if you know those objectives, that's kind of the questions that you're going to see on the test. So those are kind of things for you to study. Make sure that you can answer questions about those by the time you're done with each section. First thing I want you to do is just think about right now, what in your mind, what is chemistry? And I want you to think about it, maybe even jot it down in your notes, what you think. All right, before we talk about chemistry, let's first talk about matter. Let's go ahead and talk about that. First of all, matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. So anything, it could be a solid, it could be like rocks, it could be liquid, it could be water, it could be gases, it could be like oxygen. Any of those things, all of those things are examples of matter. Anything that has mass, takes up space, is considered to be matter. So think about, the air in a balloon. It takes up space, right? Otherwise the balloon wouldn't have any size to it. So, that's why that would be matter. And actually, if you wanted to check it out, you could weigh a balloon before you blow it up and weigh the balloon after you blow it up, and you would actually see there is a difference there. So it does have mass in there. All right, so if we talk about chemistry, well, chemistry is the study of the composition of matter and changes that matter undergoes. So in this example, we've got, something that burning that exploded. I believe this is from a site that creates jet fuel. Had an accident. So we've got this substance. We could study the composition of that. We obviously had a reaction that took place. The changes. And we can study that. That's all part of chemistry. All of those things would be considered to be chemistry. And since living things, non-living things, everything is made up of matter, chemistry affects everything. It affects all aspects of of our lives. Anything, natural events, anything that changes, there's some chemistry involved. So you'd be hard-pressed to find anything that doesn't have chemistry involved with it. And usually in chemistry, we break it down into 5 traditional areas that they kind of break it down into. Organic chemistry, the idea originally of organic chemistry was the chemistry of living things, but they've kind of broadened that a little bit, and now organic chemistry is considered to be the chemistry of studying compounds that contain carbon. And the reason it's no longer considered living is because we can create some of those things from non-living things. A lot of these substances nowadays, plastics, things like that, are created, they're man-made. They all contain carbon, so they would fit into organic chemistry, but they weren't living or came from living things. That was the original definition. But organic chemistry is study of things that contain carbon, whereas inorganic chemistry would be the study of things that don't contain carbon. So we would be studying other compounds. You might be studying compounds like salt, which is sodium chloride, doesn't contain carbon, stuff like that. Biochemistry would be the chemistry of living things, of the cells, things like that, things that are actually living right now, and studying like digestion and things like that and how that happens. Analytical chemistry is more where you're going to take information, take something and try to analyze it, try to figure out exactly what it is, what it's made up of, what percentage of it is made up of all these different compounds that you had. That would be an example of analytical chemistry. A lot of forensic chemistry would fit into analytical chemistry. A policeman finds a substance, they want to test what it is, that would be an example of analytical chemistry. And then the last one is physical chemistry. We're talking about more in the physics area. So we're talking about exactly how like electrons move and how they're in set up around an atom and things like that, and the physical parts of of chemistry in there. And here's just an example of some different things that they have. So, for instance, an organic chemist, you were talking about this soccer player, might create something to help them with if they have asthma or something like that. The chemistry involved in that might be considered to be organic chemistry. Or an analytical chemist might come up with tests to test something in the blood to see if some organ's not working properly. Or a biochemist, checking out the muscles, how to get you stronger, or why something's not working right, or something like that. Inorganic chemistry might be looking at how calcium would affect the bones and stuff, or a physical chemist might be studying breathing rates and things like that. So these are all different examples. I'm not sure they're always the best. Those are the best examples of things I could think of for those particular fields, but those are examples of the 5 different fields of chemistry. And be familiar with those. Make sure you can write those down on a test or something like that. They also usually kind of talk about chemistry kind of divided into categories called pure chemistry and applied chemistry. Pure chemistry being the idea of just doing chemistry to learn something, just for knowledge sake. So you might be in an example in a university, and they may just be experimenting with things, seeing what happens here. Not necessarily trying to create something for profit, but just simply trying to figure something out. That would be the idea of pure chemistry. Applied chemistry is more towards a particular goal. They're trying to figure out exactly some particular idea. Maybe they want to come up with a drug that takes care of cancer or something like that. They have a particular goal in mind. Typically, more likely something that they're going to market, when it's all said and done. That's more applied chemistry. An example would be like creating nylon. They created nylon. They have uses for it. Stockings, parachutes, various things like that. That would have been an example of something that had a particular goal. Okay, or aspirin, another example of something that chemists would have come up with, trying to come up with a way to relieve pain. So that's an example of that. When we're talking about technology, technology really is a lot more broad than what most people think. Typically if you ask the average person on the street what's technology, they're going to think, oh, my cell phone, my iPod, all those kind of things, TV, they think of electronics. That's really what they're thinking of. But that's not true. Technology is simply a means by which a society provides its members with the things needed, things desired. Creating nylon stockings is technology. Even, simple things that we think of as kind of common day-to-day things is technology. Pens, pencils, those are examples of technology. We've created those. We've done them. They serve a purpose in society. It's something that we need. All right. So why would we need to study this? You guys are in here for a year. Why study chemistry? Well, one, it can be useful in explaining the natural world. A lot of times you can go out and just see normal things and say, oh yeah, I understand a little bit more about that. You can know a little bit about just the chemicals and things that are in your cupboard at home, and maybe just know that, oh, I shouldn't mix these things together because that's really dangerous, or if I put these two things together, it does a better job of cleaning, and so on. So chemistry can be useful just in explaining the natural world. Think about farmers. Think of how much chemistry there is in farming nowadays and things like that. There's a lot more than we ever used to have when we're doing those types of things. Or it can also be used for preparing people for careers, different things. A lot of jobs in chemistry, a lot of pretty good paying jobs out there. So right now, what I'd like you to do is, in your own words, I want you to define chemistry. You can say it or you can jot it in your notes, but I want you to think about exactly what it is. And what do chemists do? If you were a chemist, what would you be doing? A couple other questions for you to jot down. Explain why chemistry affects all aspects of life and most natural events. Name the 5 traditional areas. Describe the relationship between pure and applied chemistry. And give 3 reasons for studying chemistry. You know, if you can do those things, you're going to be able to answer most of the questions off section 1. All right, here's your first assignment. Something you need to do for tomorrow when you come in. I want you to have an article. So look in local paper, look in a magazine, and find a current news story that is related to chemistry. And I want you to cut it out or photocopy it and bring it to class next time. And then we'll talk about those.